Go ahead and turn around, put your hands behind your back, and then the rest.
For what?
Disorderly conduct and menacing.
Menace. This is funny. Okay.
Don't
I'm going to do it.
Okay.
Just you don't have to hand.
Put your hands behind your back.
Oh, you want my keys now? Yes, take my keys.
Like that. Don't be great.
The moment doesn't announce itself with noise. It settles in quietly, the way control often does when it believes it cannot be questioned. A patrol vehicle coasts into a fast food parking lot, the kind of place where nothing is supposed to matter for more than a few minutes. No sirens, no urgency. Just a deputy stepping out of a cruiser with the confidence of someone who assumes the world will move out of his way. Minutes earlier, a near miss on the road. 2 lanes crossed without warning. A sudden break. An older woman inhaling sharply beside the driver's seat. The kind of mistake people make every day, except this one was made by someone wearing a badge. And when the badge makes the mistake, the air changes. Accountability becomes optional. Criticism becomes a threat. Juniper follows, not chasing, not confronting, just closing distance. The parking lot is wide, open, empty enough that every movement is visible. She approaches the cruiser and taps the glass. Not hard, not frantic. A gesture meant to be seen, not feared. But the response arrives already sharpened. The deputy's posture stiffens. His voice lowers. The exchange becomes vertical. One person speaking from below, one from above. He does not ask what she wants. He does not ask if everyone is okay. He issues a warning instead, the kind meant to remind someone of where they stand. Jail appears in the conversation early, before facts, before understanding. A destination offered as leverage. This is where the shift begins. Not with handcuffs, with tone. Juniper doesn't retreat, she doesn't escalate either. She asks for a name, a badge number. Something simple, something traceable. The request lands poorly. Accountability always does when it arrives uninvited. The deputy's authority is no longer abstract, it's being tested in public, even if the public is only a few passing cars and an older woman watching from the passenger seat. Another unit arrives. The arrival should cool things down, more eyes usually do. Instead, the temperature rises. The focus drifts away from what happened on the road and toward what can be done now. Options narrow. Language hardens. The scene becomes less about resolution and more about regaining control. Juniper is told where to stand, told not to move, told not to reach. Commands stack quickly, overlapping, leaving no room to comply perfectly. Her movements become suspicious by default. Even still, she remains measured. She records. She speaks evenly. She asks again who she's dealing with. The second deputy doesn't interrupt the direction of the moment. He aligns with it. Stands close enough to signal agreement, far enough to avoid responsibility. Together, they begin shaping a narrative that suggests danger where there is none. Words like menacing float into the air, untethered from behavior, heavy with implication. The parking lot hasn't changed. No crowd, no raised voices from Juniper, no threats. But the decision is already forming. The language shifts from warnings to conclusions. Disorder appears where there is order. Intent is assigned where there is restraint. When the arrest comes, it doesn't feel reactive, it feels prepared. Hands are directed behind a back. Cold metal closes around wrists. The sound is final in a way that paperwork later can never undo. Nearby, an older woman watches her daughter led away. Her own role reduced to that of a silent witness. She is told to stay back, told not to touch keys, told where to stand. Her concern becomes interference the moment it enters the frame. Juniper asks for a brief human moment, a goodbye. It's denied. The denial is procedural in tone but personal in impact. The system does not pause for small mercies when it believes it is right. The night stretches on. A cell, concrete, fluorescent light that never dims. The discomfort isn't incidental. It's part of the process, a reminder of who controls time now. Hours pass without urgency, without apology. By morning, the language shifts again, softer, more reflective. Regret appears, but only in hindsight, and only as a suggestion that things could have gone differently if Juniper had chosen another path. Responsibility remains elsewhere. The system speaks gently about how it prefers complaints to be filed, not voiced. But the damage is already done. The record exists. The memory is fixed. The power imbalance has left its mark. This isn't a story about a traffic mistake. It's about how quickly authority hardens when challenged, and how easily escalation replaces accountability. The moment control felt threatened, the outcome became inevitable. Morning light has a way of flattening everything. It removes the drama without erasing the consequences. Juniper steps out changed, not visibly but internally. A night in custody doesn't leave bruises you can point to, but it rearranges your sense of safety. The world feels less predictable afterward. The explanation comes slowly, not all at once. Pieces offered by different voices, none fully owning the outcome. Words like misunderstanding and better ways drift into the conversation. They sound reasonable on their own. Together, they obscure what actually happened. The charges linger briefly, like a cloud that doesn't rain but blocks the sun. Menacing. Disorderly conduct. Labels that suggest chaos, aggression, threat. None of them fit what the camera shows, but labels don't need to fit. They only need to exist long enough to justify what's already been done. Juniper reviews the footage, frame by frame. The calm in her movement stands out now more than it did in the moment. She sees how still she was, how measured, how the escalation came from one direction only. The realization is unsettling. If this can happen while doing everything right, what protects anyone else? Her mother speaks less. The experience sits heavier with age. Watching your child placed in handcuffs does something permanent to the way you see authority. Silence becomes her language, not because she has nothing to say, but because she has seen what words can trigger. Then there's the second betrayal, quieter, less visible. A person assigned to help crosses a line that shouldn't exist at all. Messages that have nothing to do with defense or advocacy. Another reminder that power, when unchecked, tends to repeat itself in different forms. The system doesn't collapse under this weight. It absorbs it, redirects it, dismisses the charges quietly, without ceremony, no apology, no acknowledgement of harm. Just an administrative end to something that never should have started. But dismissal doesn't erase the night. It doesn't refund the fear. It doesn't give back the sense of dignity that was taken casually, almost absent-mindedly. For Juniper, the decision to push forward isn't immediate. It arrives after reflection, after anger cools into resolve. She doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't make herself the center of attention. She documents, she files, she persists. The language of her response mirrors the calm she showed in the parking lot. That calm becomes its own form of resistance. As the case develops, patterns emerge, not just in her story, but in others that surface quietly, shared in messages and side conversations. Similar stops, similar reactions to criticism, similar use of authority to end discomfort rather than address it. The deputies involved continue working. Life moves on around them. That continuity is part of the problem. When nothing interrupts the routine, behavior calcifies. The absence of immediate consequence teaches its own lesson. Juniper's lawsuit isn't loud. It doesn't promise transformation. It simply insists on acknowledgement, on a record that reflects reality instead of authority. The filing itself is an act of patience. It accepts that change, if it comes at all, comes slowly. This part of the story lacks spectacle. No sirens, no raised fists, just documents, dates, and the quiet grind of accountability trying to find traction in a system designed to resist it. The power dynamic has shifted again, but subtly. Control is no longer physical, it's procedural. The outcome is uncertain, but the direction is set. What was once unavoidable now has resistance. Time stretches cases like this. It dulls public interest. It tests resolve. That's often the point. Systems rely on fatigue more than force once the immediate confrontation ends. Juniper continues anyway, not because she expects vindication, but because retreat would feel like consent. Each filing, each meeting, each retelling of the night costs something. Energy, focus, peace. But it also reclaims something small each time. Agency. The footage circulates. People recognize the pattern even if they've never experienced it themselves. The language, the posture, the way authority responds when it feels watched. Conversations begin quietly, then louder, not outrage, recognition. Officials respond carefully. Statements emphasize values without addressing actions. Training is mentioned. Review processes are referenced. Nothing specific, nothing binding. The system speaks in generalities when specifics are uncomfortable. Juniper's mother watches from the side now, pride mixed with worry. The risk didn't end with release. Speaking up has consequences of its own. But silence has already shown its cost. The lawsuit advances in increments, motions, responses, delays. Each step removes a little more insulation from the original moment. The arrest is no longer isolated, it's contextualized, examined, compared. What stands out isn't cruelty, it's fragility. How easily authority tipped into punishment. How quickly a request for accountability was reframed as threat. The escalation didn't require malice, only ego and permission. The deputy's words return in memory, softer now, almost reflective. Statements about not enjoying taking freedom away, about wishing things had gone differently, regret without responsibility, empathy without repair. Juniper doesn't respond to that language. She doesn't need to. The record speaks clearly enough, calmly, without interpretation. The case may end quietly, many do. Settlements rarely make noise, but even quiet endings leave traces. Policies adjust slightly. Training materials change a line or two. Future encounters bend just enough to matter. This story isn't about one deputy or one night. It's about how power reacts when confronted by calm persistence. How escalation often reveals more than intent ever could. The parking lot remains. Cars come and go. The moment is gone from the physical world, but it exists permanently now in memory and record. A reminder that authority, left unchecked, defaults to control, and that control, once challenged, shows its shape. Juniper keeps moving forward, not triumphant, not broken, just steady. In a system that counts on silence, steadiness is disruptive enough. The outcome will be written in filings and decisions, not raised voices. And long after the footage stops, the lesson remains. Escalation is a choice, and once made, it carries everyone with it.